Good evening. Welcome to the Ombudsman program. My name is Diane Welborn. I am the Ombudsman, and I'll be your host for this evening's program. And tonight, I'm very excited to bring you two public affairs specialists from the Social Security Administration to answer all of our questions. I'd like to first introduce Theresa Busher, who's a public affairs specialist out of our Dayton, Ohio office. Hi, Theresa. Thanks for coming. And I'd also like to introduce Kelly Dragoo, who is a public affairs specialist from the Cincinnati office. So I really appreciate you two ladies giving us the time tonight to answer all these many questions that we have. In preparing for the program tonight, I read somewhere that 46 million people are touched by the Social Security Administration in one way or another. So it's a very significant part of our population in the US. And I also read that 1 in 4 families is receiving some form of Social Security benefit. So that's just an enormous number of people to help and respond to. So I'm really happy to get the chance to ask you all some questions this evening, and appreciate your sharing some with me as well. Before we dive into it, I would really like to hear a brief overview of the history of Social Security, because there's a lot to be said there. I'm sure entire books have been written, but I would like for one of you or both of you taking turns to just let the public know or remind them how it originated and basically the high points of how it's evolved over the years. Please.
Yeah, well, I can start. Hello, Diane. Thanks for having us on the program.
Certainly.
You know, it seems, first, like you said, I think in our greater Dayton area, it's like 1 in every 5.5 humans gets a Social Security benefit. That's how important we are in. I think about the Social Security comes from the heels of the Great Depression, right? Think about how before the mid-30s, your whole retirement was a family farm or what you had in the bank. And what happened after the Depression? People lost their farms. They lost everything that they had. And so it was with that background, the Social Security was born, so that you would have something as a guarantee, as a base and a foundation for your future when you became too old to work. Although, 65 we know is not very old, but it was really old in 1935. That was like retirement, because before then, again, there was no foundation that you had to rely on to keep you out of if you were disability, if you were to die, that your spouse or your children would have some financial security. And honestly, Diane, even though we have come a long way, we are still the primary source of income for the American public as they age, right? In retirement and beyond. The only source of disability income in terms of a protection for the vast majority of the American workforce, and the only source of life insurance for a lot of us if we were to pass away. And Kelly and I, we were laughing the other day. We talked so much too about cards and numbers, and we can talk about that later. But we were the first time that people were enumerated, right, Kel? We love that word, but the first time you ever got a number was like back then. Because before then, people, payroll was names.
Yeah.
And so that's how the Social Security numbers are born. And real quick, Diane, did you know, so up until I think, Kel, was it 2011, we did the first 3 numbers, those first 3 numbers were geographic. So a lot of us born in Ohio have numbers that start with 2s, or sometimes maybe a 3. If you're born on the East Coast, you had a 0 or a 1. It was like they went up as you went across. And did you know that all of our babies born since, I forget, do you remember what year it was, Kel? I'm trying to think now, what year we changed that. But it was like, now it's totally random.
Okay. I didn't know that. I knew it was regional.
Numbers are.
I knew it was regional originally because my mother and my sister and I all have the same 3 numbers in our Social Security numbers. but now it's just completely random. Okay,
Well,
good.
and
Good
when
It
to know.
they
is,
used to
yeah.
get, sometimes there were siblings that would get their numbers together,
Right.
or twins that would get Social Security numbers back to back, and they have almost identical numbers. My brother and I, for example, I went with him to get my Social Security number when he became of age to drive, and our numbers are very similar because we went together to do that. So
Once
this,
we, yeah,
when they
once
changed it, it got rid of all of that.
I see, once we had a family approach our office to help us straighten something out with Social Security, and they had 4 children, and those 4 children were all sequentially numbered. And I thought,
Yeah.
I've never seen this before. So yeah.
Yeah.
But now it's
Theresa,
completely
you're right. It did change June 25th, 2011. Social Security implemented the new assignment methodology. So they did away with all of that geographical.
Because I've seen grandparents are like, my grandbaby's born in Ohio and she's got a 0, and but that's
Right.
the way it is now. And we have changed, like you mentioned, Diane, because when Social Security first started in the 1930s, for example, the spousal benefit was only for women.
Yes.
Like for us as wives, like there were no husband benefits, which is really kind of shocking, right? So it was only like women. And, again, at the beginning, there was no disability. So it's like it has evolved, right? We had disability and Medicare then like kind of come along in the 60s. So it's certainly, and again, spousal benefits for both men and women through the years. So again, it has evolved and changed.
Yes, it has. And all in very important ways to address big changes, in our society as well. The entire SSI program for people who actually don't have that history of work, still receiving
Correct.
supports. So that's very good. Anything else?
And one thing that I think, I was going to say, that one thing that's kind of interesting is a lot of times people look at we're still seeing, the effects of laws that were changed a little bit back in the 1980s, which was the retirement age. So you can still file for Social Security retirement right now as early as 62. But your full retirement age, as many of you know right now, depends on your year of birth. And that was not made yesterday. That was made back in the 1980s, believe it or not, to make some adjustments because of our living longer. So 65 used to be the full age. Now for all of us born in 60 or after, that is full age is 67. Right? Some of you, your full age could be 66 or 66 and 6 months. So you can find all that stuff, of course, online. We can talk about that in a minute. But again, a lot of folks will say, well, 65 is pretty young. But at the same time, we all know that, we haven't changed it that much off the mark in terms of retirement, just because of our mortality, of our issues. And people know, I don't have to preach to all of you. Things happen as we get older. We don't have to get into that. Just because 67 is still pretty useful. We all admit that, but it's still tough on the body, and especially when you're in physical jobs, as many of you know. So
exactly. Well,
find your retirement age. Find your retirement age online, because that's the place where you have to start when it comes to planning.
Okay. Well, that's very good advice. Kelly, did you have anything to add on that subject before I move on?
No, I was just going to add some important dates, and Theresa kind of already touched on those, that, when the different changes were made, and when disability insurance was added, and when Medicare was added. So no, I think she's explained it wonderfully.
Okay, well, very good. You all, people are calling the 800 numbers, I'm sure, all the time. They probably would call them 24/7 if they were answered 24/7. But what would you say then are the most frequently requested services when people either call in or come into their online accounts? Can you just give us the top handful?
Yeah, Theresa, I think I can go ahead and start out there. I think one of our most requested services is going to be enumeration. So, of course, when children are born today, we have enumeration at birth, or there is enumeration at entry for people who newly enter the country. There are some folks that we still have to provide a new number to, but most of the time it is done, at birth or at entry into the country. But we do tons of replacement Social Security cards for people who have misplaced or lost their card. So that's a major request that we have and a major workload that we have, if you will. Of course, though, we provide benefits. So people are contacting Social Security mostly about, I would say, retirement benefits and all that entails. Now, our retirement benefits include not only your own retirement payments, but also benefits for your spouse, benefits for your dependents like children, either minor children or disabled adult children, benefits such as survivor benefits when you pass away. What will your family members get? And Medicare, that's huge. We are the gateway into Medicare, if you will. So when somebody is ready to enroll in Medicare, they come see us at Social Security. So I think, all of our benefits, when you break it down, you can list more than 5 of what people are looking for. But I think we have to add enumeration to that as one of the top. Theresa?
So those are all, again, definitely huge services we provide. When it comes to doing the online account, like Diane, you mentioned, what are people really wanting when they go in their online account? And I would just break that into 2 categories, right? Well, first of all, to get an online account, you need to be an adult. And for us, that's cut and dry at 18. So we can't do the online account yet for your kiddos, but we can do the online account for an adult 18 or over. And I have two of my kids are college age now, Diane. You've known me that long, right?
Yes.
Yes. And so we've been able to set them up with online accounts. So once you're 18 or older, you can go online and set up your My Social Security account. And the biggest thing that our young folks want is that you can monitor your W-2 amount. So, you pay into Social Security and you're young and you're like, what is that going to get me? And we all know it's going to get you all these good benefits down the road of retirement, your security. We're talking about your security. So they monitor that, as Kelly mentioned, with enumeration, meaning you can get a replacement Social Security card online as an adult, and you can use our little estimates, our estimator. So you can do, you can see for younger people, they'll say, well, it's just a million years away from me. I'm only 30. So what is that going to get, why? But we're saying to our 30-year-olds, you need to be looking at this because this is your foundation for disability. What if you become disabled? What would you get? What if you die and you have little ones? Can they live on that amount? So Kelly and I work with a lot of people in the financial planning field who they tell their clients, okay, so this is not just us spreading this word. Financial folks tell their clients, use your My Social Security account as your first base, right? That you need to see what those amounts are, and we build from there. Because you might say, if I die tomorrow, I don't think I could live, my family could live on this. Then you can supplement with other products or whatever, but at least you have that as a base. And it is what keeps a lot of our families afloat. So we want you to keep that as a younger person. It is never too early for you to be looking at that and making sure your earnings look right, right? And then it becomes the My Social Security is your portal once you're on Social Security benefits. This is where, and it is golden. And Diane, over the years, you and I know, but way back when I remember talking about the account and it was like barely nothing and we were so excited about it. Yay! It showed if you got a benefit or not. And now it's expansive. I mean, you can still, even if you were on Social Security, you can request a replacement Medicare card. You can get still a replacement Social Security card. You can order that online. But you can see benefits back to 2 years. Change your address. Print out an instant benefit verification. We have a lot of people still doing taxes, right? A lot.
Yes.
You can, and they'll say, oh my gosh, 1099. You can actually print your 1099 right off of the account. So the account is absolutely become, I think, the most critical service piece that most people want, either to get an estimate and look at their own stuff, or then to monitor your benefits as you go on benefits at some point. And people with disability do that, go online and monitor things.
Right, exactly. Well, now we still do have a digital divide that I think COVID has probably shown us was more serious than we thought. So while the online account is a wonderful thing and a great addition, what about those people that aren't comfortable with computers and don't have them or don't use them? They can still get that same information, can't they? Yes. And
Yeah.
they do that through the 800. Go ahead.
No, I'll go ahead, and then Kelly, you can jump in any place here too. Yes, with COVID, you know that our offices are still not open for routine in-person service, you guys. So you know that we are up and running, but you've got to go through the phone system, right? You have to go through our phone. And so you can still reach us. You can reach a human being through our national call number or through our local office numbers. Now, our national number, that's our main 800 number that a lot of you've seen over the years. It's 800-772-1213. It's 1-800-SSA 1213. Humans, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. weekdays. Now, it's got a 24/7 kind of robot deal on it where you can actually, and that's kind of cool. Kelly and I, we've played with this stuff in a good way, you guys.
Yeah.
We've experimented, haven't we? Like sometimes you can call, and so you can call after hours, and you could, for example, Diane, you could call at midnight tonight, and if you were on Social Security disability, for example, you could answer a bunch of prompts and have an actual benefit verification and award letter sent to you.
Oh, that's great.
You know, so, but a lot of our folks, okay, you're calling us because you need something, and that might be an appointment. That might be an appointment with the local office, etc. So when you want those human beings, 800 number, 8 to 7 weekdays. Local offices are up and running 9 to 4 weekdays. That's our phone service. Those are the hours we used to be open to in person too, but it's phone service. Now the 800 number, the 800 number representatives can get you a message to the office. But the good thing, one of the good things about COVID is that now you can actually go into socialsecurity.gov/locator or ssa.gov/locator, and you can type in your zip code and pop up your local office info. It will give you the local office direct line and fax. But those, again, so you're not, and they're all 877 numbers too, which can be weird. So, you know, like Kelly's located physically in Cincinnati, but she types in her local office, it's not going to give a 513 area code. It's going to give an 866. So don't be confused when you see that for our greater Dayton area. That's the way it is for all of our offices, but you're calling locally right into that office.
Well, that's good to know, because I'm sure that people really didn't know about that. We've spoken a lot about the importance of the Social Security number and the importance of it. But the Social Security number is not really supposed to be used as an ID number, is it?
Well, it was never really designed to be anything more than a number that you received as a worker. And so, you know, Theresa talked about the early days of the Social Security system in that it was, you know, your wages were recorded by your name and your bank account was recorded by a name. Nobody really had a number. And so this number was developed just so that as the worker in the system, you could be identified. But it's really just taken off crazy with an identification. For many years, the Social Security card said on it, this shouldn't be used as an identification. And then that changed. And I think since like the early 70s, that's gone away because so many people do use the number as a form of identification. So, you know, I think people do ask. I can remember as a younger person going into a retail store, and when you wrote a check, they would ask you to write your Social Security number across the top of the check. That's unheard of today.
Right, and should not be done.
No, and you know, I live in Cincinnati, so Southern Ohio. We had a lot of people that would come over from Kentucky, and their Social Security number was their driver's license number at one point in Kentucky. So as I was a cashier writing down a number, I was writing the person's social security number down.
Yes.
So, it's evolved quite a bit, but people do use it as identification. Of course, if you apply for a loan or open a new bank account or a credit card, oftentimes you're going to have to give your social security number, and that's okay. I think you just need to hold it close to the vest, be careful who you're handing it out to. Question, if someone's asking you for it and you don't see a reason why they would ever need to know your social security number, don't be so quick to just give that out. You want to be very sure that, your identity isn't lost, because the fraudsters can do so many things with that number nowadays.
Yes, they
Theresa?
can. I want to come back to fraud, but I had a question about obtaining a social security number for a child that's born of U.S. parents living abroad. How does that work out?
Theresa, I'm going to let you handle that one.
Yeah. So if the parents are living abroad, they would go to their closest U.S. consulate or U.S. embassy. That's a process that actually goes through like the Department of State.
I see.
Toward a U.S. citizenship birth abroad, Diane.
Right.
And it's interesting that we have the different embassies and consulates have something called a federal benefits unit, which is very interesting. So that our citizens living abroad can, for example, as a U.S. citizen, you could get retirement living abroad. As long as there's some restrictions in countries that are not in good standing with the United States. But for a lot of the countries where I think our family members, if you're talking most of the countries that you can think of that have relations with the United States,
right.
Where we have embassies and that type of thing, facilitate getting not only benefits and such, but assist parents living abroad with getting their children a number assigned. So that's pretty routine with all the service people that we have abroad and that type of thing. But even if you're not in the service, it's totally possible that you have to go. I would always recommend that you go to this U.S. Department of State. The State Department website really leads our citizens through how they do that abroad.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that answer. The fraud that we mentioned, I'd like you to tell our viewers a little bit about the Social Security practices. And if a person receives a call and somebody says they're from Social Security, how do you all advise handling a call like that in order to help protect people from the fraudulent folks that are out there?
Well, I think we advise people to be very careful when someone calls saying they are from the Social Security Administration. First of all, we do call our public, but it generally makes very much sense if we call you. So we don't typically just reach out to anyone. We reach out to people that have ongoing business with Social Security. So you may have just made contact with a Social Security office recently, and we're getting back to you. You may have been online and filed an application, and now we're following up. You may have applied for benefits 3 months ago, and now a decision has been made. So there are reasons why we would call someone. We always advise people that a real government official, somebody really from Social Security, is never going to threaten you. We're never going to feel offended if you say, I don't believe that you're calling me from the office. We will advise you to hang up. Call back through the 800 number, find out if I really work here, ask to be transferred through the channels to the local office, to my extension, etc. And, you call me instead if you want to make that, make yourself feel better. We never use robots. So a lot of the scam calls today come from a robocall. And that is not something we do. So that's number one that we say, if you ever get a robocall, hang up. That's a scam call for sure. We would never call you with a robocall and tell you to press 1 to talk to a live person. That's a scam. And we would never tell you that we're going to suspend your Social Security number. That's oftentimes one of the scams we hear about, is that, you know, somebody got a call and they said, if I didn't do what they told them, that they were going to suspend my Social Security number and they were going to send the police to my door and, you know, all of this other stuff. And that's all just a scam. Again, if you hear that terminology of we're going to suspend your Social Security number, hang up. That's a scam. We don't even know what that means, to suspend a Social Security number. Again, that's just your number as a worker paying taxes on your wages. There's nothing to suspend. So, you know, that's pretty much the best I can explain that. Theresa, can you add more to that?
The only thing I would say is that we've had people say to us, but they left me a voicemail. Don't you think that scared me, that they left me a voicemail? And we're like, scammers leave you voicemails. Just because I'm like, do you want to? Kelly and I literally work for Social Security, and they call us and tell us our Social Security is suspended.
Oh, no.
Our phone, our voicemail. So we've gotten them too. We just want you to never, ever call those numbers back, or don't push 1 where it says, you know, push 1 to talk to a representative. It's not us. It's not Social Security. It's people trying to get your information. You hang up. And like Kelly said, if you have any doubt whatsoever and it just seems weird, then you hang up and you call the 800 number that we set, or the local office, and you go from there. So always make sure you cancel that connection and then reconnect with us with you making the call.
Okay, thank you. That's very good advice. I hope people are listening and taking that in. And I know there's information about that on your website as well, if people want to read up about that. Talk to us a little bit about how long one pays into Social Security in order to receive benefits.
Theresa, I'll answer if you're, basically you have to work and be taxed on your wages. And when you're taxed on your wages, you earn credits towards an insurance, whether it's for retirement benefit or survivor benefit for your family, or for disability insurance, or even Medicare. So as you work, you earn credits. You can earn a maximum of 4 credits per year, and 1 credit is valued basically when you make $1,470, you've earned a credit. So once your wages have equaled $1,470, you earn 1 credit. Once you've earned $5,880 for the year, you've earned the 4 credits that you can earn in the year. So you need at least about 10 years worth of part-time work in order to earn your 40 credits. So 4 credits a year, 10 years worth of work at about the $6,000 range. And then you have your 40 credits. 40 credits is what's necessary for you to be insured for a retirement benefit. Okay. Now, when we talk disability benefit, the insurance is a little bit different, and I'll let Theresa go into that. Are you there, Theresa?
I couldn't hear the last thing you said, Kel. I know you said about disability.
I said that 40 credits for retirement benefits, but for disability insurance, it's a little bit different. And I figured you'd probably want to explain a little bit how the credits work for that.
Well, and I can. With disability, you have to have earned these credits, which are kind of, again, they're just like monetary amounts. You don't see them on your pay stub. This is all behind the scenes. And you have to have earned a certain amount of credits before you become disabled. So if I become disabled traumatically today, I have to have paid in this like very minimal amount 5 out of the 10 years before my disability happens. So to make sure you have enough for your own retirement or with your own disability, we would want you to go to socialsecurity.gov and go on your account, to go to your My Social Security account. Because I don't know if you've looked at your own account, Diane, but one thing we've done really well now is Kelly and I used to laugh that you almost had to like look hard to see if you had your 40 credits, like it was almost buried in there. And now it's like this cool little, we call it the little gas tank. It shows you if your tank's all filled up, if you have enough work. And it gives you like a little green tank light that says, okay, you have your 40 credits and you qualify for retirement. And that's great because, you know, in especially in our area, in Dayton and in Southwest Ohio, we have a ton of people that have a lot of public pension system work too.
Yes.
My own husband, Ed, is in like, he's under OPERS and STRS. You see this a lot, right?
Yes,
Diane, with folks that work for the county, the city, you know. And so you know that what Kelly is saying holds true. That's a universal truth. What she just explained about the 40 credits, it doesn't matter if you have some Social Security work and like some work for the city or the county or whatever, you have to have that 40 credit amount. And now it's great because you can really look on your My Social Security account, even if, you know, I work for the city of Dayton, to see, do I have those 40 credits? If I don't, it'll tell me how many I have.
Good, good. That's another benefit to looking online. But even for the people who get the paper statements, it does say if they're eligible for disability or not, or at least it used to on those statements.
Yeah, and we don't send out the paper statements very well.
Yeah. And if somebody did not pay into Social Security because maybe they were self-employed or something for a while, what happens to them? What should they do to check on their status?
Well, you know, the other, this comes up a lot because you do have self-employed people who, you know, they don't pay the Social Security tax on their earnings. They might whittle away how much they earned, you know, by writing it all off. And then there's very little left to pay a tax on. And that's great as far as how much you're paying in taxes. But then one day when you come to retire, then you may not have your 40 credits. Or one day you fall off that ladder in your construction business and you don't have your credits necessary for your insured status to be eligible for disability benefits. So like Theresa said, your My Social Security account is going to show you whether or not you have your credits. So I would always advise people to keep track of that and know whether or not you have your credits, whether you are thinking about retirement or you're younger and just want to be prepared should you become disabled, or if you should pass away and you have little kids, that you want to make sure there's something left over for them. Now, there is a disability benefit out there called SSI, which is Supplemental Security Income, and that's more of a needs-based program. You don't have to have ever worked a day in your life to be eligible for that benefit, but you do have to meet stringent rules of being found to be disabled by the Social Security office or be 65 or older, and you have to have limited income and limited resources. You also have to be living in a living arrangement that is payable or allowable for a payment of SSI. So for example, somebody that's in prison wouldn't be eligible to receive an SSI payment. So there is that program out there, SSI. A lot of children get that because they haven't worked yet, but they may have a disabling condition. Or maybe somebody that is aged that didn't work very much and maybe never was married. Maybe they could get SSI as well. So, you know, the biggest thing we can say for those self-employed people is, you know, pay close attention, pay your taxes into Social Security so that you do earn that retirement benefit one day. Otherwise, prepare behind the scenes for your own retirement because you may not be eligible for something from Social Security.
Yeah, and that's a good important point. Well, you mentioned, you know, the passing away. Is how much is the death benefit now, and is that being increased? I mean, you even see commercials on TV where people are sitting around the table talking about it. So, what can you add to that conversation?
It's the same $255 that it's been since its inception.
Okay.
I read one time about the history of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Theresa, but I think what I read was it evolved over the years, but at one point, $255 was like 3 times the maximum benefit amount. And so that
Yes.
amount has just remained what it is. Now, prior to the position I'm in now as a claims representative with Social Security, and personally, I think the lump sum death payment of 255, although it doesn't pay much towards someone's funeral costs, it is something that everyone's aware of. So most of the public has heard of this $255. Like you said, it's all over different commercials and things like that. And I think what that means to me is it brings people to Social Security. So when someone passes away, they don't think they might be eligible. I mean, some people might not realize there is a survivor benefit under Social Security. And maybe because my spouse died, I'm eligible for a payment. But they do know about the $255. So oftentimes they will contact Social Security looking for the 255, and we find out, oh, you're divorced from somebody who passed away or something like that, and we might be able to find these benefits that they never knew they were entitled to. Or maybe they are a low income individual and maybe SSI eligibility is there. So I think that it's a tool that remains to still come see Social Security. Whether or not that's true, I'm not sure. The 255 has never increased. I doubt it ever will, but I like that it remains on the books because, again, it brings people to us that we may not be reaching.
That's a very good point. Thanks a lot for that. And
well, let me just real quick add that the death benefit, that the 255 is only that one-time payment. The real death benefit is a survivorship. That's, again, like Kelly was saying, the real benefit for our survivors are if you pass away, your children can draw a benefit up until high school graduation. But your spouse or a child with a disability may be able to draw off your record for the rest of their lives. So that's truly what we tell folks our death benefit is based upon, is providing for your dependents upon your death.
Yes, thank you. That's a very good point. Speaking of passing away, do you all at the Social Security Administration have large numbers of staff who are checking death indexes all the time so that when somebody has passed away to trigger either that death benefit or trigger at least stopping payments to that person if they're deceased?
Well, we have vital statistics data sharing with Social Security. So you guys, it's not the same as it was maybe. Some of us remember back in the olden days when it would take a long time for a death to catch up to you. Now, when Kelly and I are talking to folks, a lot of times say, you don't have to even report a death to us, Diane, with your loved one, unless if there's any possibility, though, of benefits at all. Like Kelly mentioned, anything, if you think you might be due the 255, if you think you might have children due a benefit, a spouse, anything, then call us. We always want to check and screen for that benefit. But let's say that my mother passes away. My father's already passed. She's 95 years old. Then I don't have to report that death. That is through vital statistics for us.
Okay.
And it will normally be within days of the death.
Yeah, I've seen it happen that quickly is right. One of the questions we get a lot that'd be nice for you to address for people is the amount, if a person is receiving their own retirement benefits and their spouse passes away, there seems to be a general thought out there that they're going to get to have all of their spouse's former benefits. You must get this a lot because there's just not a really widespread understanding out there about how spousal benefits work. So why don't you clarify that for our viewers so they'll understand that a little bit better?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is a misconception with, that if you receive a spousal benefit that you're going to keep or a survivor benefit, that you'll paid the higher benefit, sometimes that's your own benefit. Sometimes it's your survivor benefit. Sometimes you may already be receiving your own retirement benefit when your spouse passes away. If that happens and they are the higher earning spouse, then we will keep paying you your benefit, but we're going to add to that an additional amount from their work record to bring you up to what you can receive off of their record as the surviving spouse. Now, the amount we pay somebody as a surviving spouse depends on the age that the surviving spouse is when they claim the benefit. So a surviving spouse can claim benefits as early as age 60, which is earlier than retirement age of 62. So you can start your benefit as a surviving spouse as early as age 60. But, and I say a big but there is a reduction in how much we will pay you based on what you're going, or based on your age. So just like our retirement benefits, you have a full retirement age. And if you draw your benefit earlier than your full retirement age, you're going to get a reduced amount of money for the rest of your life. The widow and widower benefit is the same way. So although you can draw a benefit as early as 60, if you wait till your full retirement age to draw it instead, you're going to get more money. So you only collect about 71.5% of what your deceased spouse was getting if you draw your benefit at 60. The longer you wait, the more you'll get. And once you hit your full retirement age, then you can look at getting 100% of what your deceased spouse was receiving. But the key here is you're never going to get both. You might get a combination of both. Let me give you just an example. Let's say the spouse that passed away was getting $2,300 a month. I am still alive and I'm already getting my own retirement of $1,400 a month. So I'm going to keep getting my $1,400, but because I am my full retirement age and my spouse who died made more money, I'm going to get added to my $1,400 an additional $900 from my spouse's work record. That brings me up to that total $2,300. So as one person left alive, you just end up with that one benefit, but it equals what the higher spouse was receiving when they passed away. Okay. So hopefully that helps explain that a little bit.
I think it does. I think people can do the math on that. The person that has the larger benefit, then they would be increased to have their benefit go up to that level. That's a very good explanation, a shorthand of that. Now, are Social Security benefits taxed?
We get asked this question all the time, don't we, Kelly? And we laugh, Diane, because you know we're not the IRS. This is the Ombudsman show with Social Security.
Oh, yes, I know.
Yes, not the IRS. But here's the thing we want everyone to realize. You will get a 1099 annually for your taxes when you're on Social Security. So that doesn't matter if it's a widow benefit or on your own retirement, you're drawing on an X. You're going to get a 1099 each year, which is like a W-2, right? And then that would go on your 1040. So do you have to pay extra tax or whatever, or any tax at all given? So we don't know. Kelly and I don't know, because maybe you have a spouse in this mix. Maybe you have other types of income coming in. I mean, you could be in the high bracket and maybe you have to pay something else on that. I would say for this area, in our greater Dayton area, about 25% of us pay some additional income taxes with the Social Security benefit. That means like 3/4 do not. But I still want you to realize you'll get a 1099. Okay. How do you know if you might owe something? Well, if you do the tax person, talk to them. If you use the tax person. If you don't use the tax person, you do your own turbo taxes. Go to irs.gov, publication 915.
Okay.
You've got this memorized, right, Kelly? Publication
Yeah.
915. Diane, it's in a whole worksheet, and you can work out if you would owe. And if you want to withhold from your Social Security check, we at Social Security can actually do that for you. We can withhold if you don't want to end up owing. But before you would want to withhold, you've got to figure out if you're even going to owe anything, because the majority of you will not. So,
Right.
it's like, go ahead and look. And again, if you go onto our socialsecurity.gov site, if you click on retire, in our retire section, there's good information that kind of guides you on general tax stuff and withholding form, all that one-stop shopping.
Yes. Okay. That's a very good point. And as you said, some people are still finishing up those taxes for this year. So it's good for them to take a look at that. Also, how often does the agency review the level of benefits that a person is receiving? Does that happen on an ongoing basis?
So for you, like a retirement benefit, do you mean, Diane? Like, are we reviewing your retirement benefits each year?
Yes, thank you. Let's use that as the example.
Okay. So in terms of retirement, usually once you go on a benefit, that when you're retiring, for example, or you're drawing from a spouse who's passed away, we know your work history, right? So we're calculating your benefit based on all your previous wages. It is not the Colonel's secret recipe, as Kelly and I tease. Go online and look at our retirement portal. It has calculators. You can literally download the formula as to how we calculate your benefit. So we average all your work over your lifetime, and that becomes the base of your Social Security benefit. So we're calculating that. So pretty much it's kind of set in stone. Once you lock in, you get a cost of living adjustment. However, did you know that if you continue working, that makes a difference potentially, right? You're putting more work into your mix, more work into your averaging. So every year, automatically, our system looks back to pull in, if you have worked at all and put in another W-2, did you know that annually we recalculate your retirement? So I think that makes a lot of people happy to realize, oh, they are reviewing it every year. We actually are. Now, if you don't work anymore after you're retired, it's not going to change. If you do work a little bit, it will never lower it, but you've got to move it up $1. You have to move it up $1 for us to adjust the amount, right? And Kelly may want to mention too, disability benefits are reviewed.
Yes.
Yeah, disability benefits are a little bit different. So let's say somebody who gets SSI benefits, we do regular reviews with those to determine non-medical things like where someone lives, whether or not they have another source of income or resources available to them that they could use as income instead of the SSI program, because it's needs-based. But then also the SSDI benefit as well as the SSI benefit, both of the disability benefits, I should say, we do continuing medical reviews. So periodically there will be a review of the person's medical condition. And that's all based upon the type of medical condition that someone has. So there are some conditions that will never improve, but they will still get a review at some point in the future. It might be 7 years or 10 years or 15 years down the road, but there will still always be reviews. I think most of them are probably 1 year or 3 years or 5-year reviews to see if there's been any signs of medical improvement. Again, we're constantly looking at what is Social Security's definition of disability, and
Right.
has this person's condition improved to the point where they may be able to return into the workforce, et cetera. So with disability, we do these regular reviews every couple of years usually.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for clarifying all of that. I'm getting pretty conscious of time. I've got a couple of things else I want to get out to you all. We're in the wave of the baby boomers. We're moving through the system. Why can't talk to our viewers about what that means? When will this wave pass? What implications does it have for us?
I was actually I was looking through this question earlier and asking Theresa to explain to me exactly who those baby boomers are. I have always thought the baby boomer years ended in the 50s, but Theresa taught me different of that today. I'll let Theresa take this one.
There's argument as to who exactly, where the boomer line cuts. There is a little bit of argument there, right?
Yes. So overall, when does the agency predict the passing of the boomer generation?
Well, I think that's a tough one to say exactly, Diane, because I mean, we're in it right now, right?
Yes.
I mean, think of it. I always take my husband Ed as an example. He's the youngest of 8. Is that a total boomer family, right? You know,
yes.
So I have a brother-in-law that's like turning 70. How could that have happened? You know,
yeah.
And all the way down. So we know that we're in prime boomer retirement over the next 10, 15 plus years, right? So I think what you've seen in our end is a lot of work to make sure we're meeting you boomers where you want to be. And I think most of our boomers want access to online. They want their own info. They want to be able to see their benefit estimates, and they want to be able to check on their benefits when they're receiving those benefits as well. So I think for our boomers out there, whether you're still working or you're almost to the edge of like going over to benefits, etc., I think for most of our folks using those online tools, I mean, we've made it so easy. I think the vast majority of our folks are filing online too, Diane. I mean, most boomers want that also. You know, so I think, again, when you talk about, now, when is that all going to end? Well, I suppose you could say within 10 to 15 years, right? I think, Cal, most of our people you would think of as the standard boomers,
yeah,
you'll be on the rolls, so to speak, and hopefully, again, living a happy life, using those online services to monitor benefits, etc. With that in mind, Diane, one quick aside, I also thought about when Kel was talking about disability. As we've had a lot of boomers aging, we have had a lot of questions. It's a hot topic Kelly and I've had. Can you file for disability when you're coming into retirement? So say that you're 63, you're 64, and you become disabled. Do you just file for retirement at that point, right? We would want you to consider a filing for disability. You can do that all the way until your full age, right? For some of you, that's 66. For some of us, it's 67. Once you cross full age, there's no more disability, my friend.
Yes.
We're all retirees. But we've seen too many cases of people in their young 60s, for example. You think, I'm 63, I'll do my retirement. It's easy. Well, you have a reduced retirement then for the rest of your life. Consider filing for disability because it erases that reduction, Diane, and it actually allows you to have more money over your lifetime. So we've seen a lot of questions about that and just wanted to kind of throw it out there for our viewers.
Thank you. I'm glad you did because it is an important one. I hear in our work younger people that tend to believe that the Social Security is not going to be there for them. And what do you all have to say to young people who fear that or may have already concluded that?
Well, my short answer to that is that as long as we have workers paying the FICA tax, which is the wage tax on your wages, there will be a Social Security benefit. Now, it may not look like it does today, and this kind of ties in the baby boomers as well, but the Social Security trust fund kind of ebbs and flows. So the more people who work and pay into Social Security, the higher amount that's in the trust fund and the lesser amount that are drawing out of the benefit. As all these baby boomers start to come of age and start to draw the benefit, there are more people taking out of the system than there is paying into it. But as long as we continue to make payments into the Social Security system, Social Security will exist. Will there be a surplus, which is what the trust fund is? That's the question. And, for that, I'm going to pass it off to Theresa because I think she's pretty insightful with how she can answer for these younger folks that are out there.
Well, I'll just say that Social Security is the here now for a lot of our younger people. And Diane, your role to that. About a third of beneficiaries are younger than retirement. They are people getting from a deceased parent. They're people on disability, etc. So even though we know there could be changes coming down the road, we feel secure that Social Security will be around as our American family protection.
Good. Thank you very much. I'm afraid we're really closing up on time, so I'd like to give each of you a minute for closing thoughts that or something I haven't asked you. Please take it away, Kelly.
I would just like to encourage everyone to take a minute, go onto our website, socialsecurity.gov, and create yourself a My Social Security account. It's invaluable, especially if you are thinking about retirement. You can't find a better tool to help you get started.
Thank you.
I back up Kelly, and also visit our socialsecurity.gov/coronavirus. Diane, you cannot miss it. Socialsecurity.gov or SSA.gov. Hit the coronavirus tab right at the top. Amazing information.
Okay, very, very good. I want to thank you too for so much information, and we could have done this for another hour. So I will be calling you back in the future to come on and finish the program by giving us some more answers to the many questions of this important agency which touches so many lives. So thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for your time tonight. I really appreciate it. And thank you to the viewers. We appreciate your participation in the program. Good night.